Led by a newly appointed government, the Lebanese parliament approved a budget proposal meant to restore order in the country. But protesters outside were anything but satisfied.
We won't stop. We won't leave the streets until they're all pushed out. Just as we brought down the first government, we will bring down the second one too. That's if they get the vote of confidence.
Massive demonstrations erupted in October over former Prime Minister Saad Hariri's tax reform proposal. Protesters celebrated when Hariri stepped down 2 weeks later. But 3 months on, they say his successor Hassan Diab's plans are more of the same.
The government will not obstruct the budget that was prepared by the previous administration and was discussed by the Fiscal and Budget Parliamentarian Committee. Therefore, the government will leave the issue to the parliament while reserving the right to submit bills for amendments in the budget after gaining confidence.
Diab aims to reduce the budget deficit to 6% of GDP. That's a small drop from the planned deficit of 7.6% for last year. Lebanon's rapidly deteriorating economy is threatening to push the country into its worst economic crisis since the end of the civil war in 1990. The Lebanese pound has lost up to 60% of its value against the dollar in recent months. Banks have imposed limits on foreign currency withdrawals, and tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs or endured pay cuts as businesses are forced to close down. The economic meltdown has been exacerbated by a looming $1.2 billion Eurobond payment due in March, while public debt stands at $85 billion. The government says it's seeking a $5 billion lifeline from international donors to keep the country afloat for now. But analysts are warning the deepening debt pile and a disenchanted workforce could put Lebanon into default for the first time. Laila Humairah, TRT World.
Well, for more on this story, let's bring in Sami Nader from Beirut. He's the director of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. Welcome back to the program, Sami. Now, it's been a little over a week since Prime Minister Hassan Diab announced his new cabinet, so it looks like they've really got down to business and rushed through a budget for 2020. Is that the right move? Do you think that's enough to get the country back on track?
I think it's the wrong move to start with and as a kick-off because Mr. Diab yesterday was present at a parliamentary session that has to approve a budget that has been prepared by a government that was toppled by the protesters. So the protesters has toppled the Hariri government after he announced this plan, which has been refused by the population. So it was very weird yesterday on the constitutional level to see a government and the chief of government just assigned with this task to approve and to validate a plan and or a budget that has been prepared by a resigning one. As for the content of this budget, the reforms or the measures that are stipulated inside the contract are not sustainable. Because bottom line, yes, it calls for a reduction of the budget deficit, but the way they were doing it is they were trying to move the losses from the state to the central bank. I mean, from one pocket to the other by only reducing the interest on the Lebanese treasury bills. That means that it is the Central Bank of Lebanon that is to incur these losses, and this is not sustainable. Plus, it does not fit into a full-fledged program of reforms that the economy badly needs in order to get out of the economic collapse. And frankly speaking, today Lebanon and the government of Lebanon has to answer one very single and simple question. Is Lebanon ready to go to the IMF, yes or no? Because it is on such a bad situation. It does need a financial package. Reforms today are not enough Lebanon needs an injection of cash, of fresh money, in order to save the whole monetary and banking sector that is collapsing. And I'm afraid that reforms are not enough anymore.
Yes, I want to ask you more about this idea of an IMF bailout. As we know, with other bailouts from the International Monetary Fund, they do come with strings attached, mainly tax increases, cuts in spending. Do you think Lebanon is in a position right now, particularly when it comes to, I guess, the general population, to actually accept terms like that in terms of a bailout?
There is no doubt that the path of an IMF will not be an easy one, but the question is there any other alternatives? Because this government and all the government that succeeded from the last 10 years didn't miss any opportunity to miss an opportunity, actually. And now they are here in the middle of a collapse. Now they are promising reforms. It's not sure that they can deliver these reforms, but reforms, as I said, are not enough. With the banking sector, the central bank needs an injection of cash to avoid total collapse. Lebanon has not enough money in its reserves to pay what's due in 1 month in terms of interest on the euro bonds, and the euro bond today has lost 60% of its value on the market, and this bodes very ill to Lebanon public finances. So the question is, we all know that the IMF path is a hard and tough one. However, I'm afraid that Lebanon does not have any other choice.
Okay, Sami Nader, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you, as always, for your analysis.